All right, listen, the Trump White House messed up badly, and they know it. I have a breaking news update about perhaps the most important story happening right now because Trump has already rescinded. He already backtracked on his decision to unilaterally halt almost all government grant funding, which immediately caused mass confusion, first in our lawmakers, governors, and officials when they got wind. But then when the story broke to the public, people were confused even further. Why don't I have access to my Medicaid portals? Do I still have my SNAP benefits? What are the implications of this? Nobody quite understood, including the Trump White House. This memorandum was written so poorly that even the Trump White House did not understand the full implications, and it caused a bunch of chaos within the Pentagon. Who better to run the Pentagon during this chaos than DUI hire Pete Hegseth, pulled straight from Fox News? It caused chaos among all states. Even Republicans were kind of worried about what was happening. And I just want to break down the update we have today because it seems like the Trump White House knows they fucked up. And listen, nothing instills more confidence in my president than watching his administration rescind a government-breaking memo only 36 hours after releasing it, therefore confusing everybody even further. Again, people lost access to the Medicaid website within hours of this memorandum being released. People didn't know whether their SNAP benefits were about to be slashed, and it turns out there was a carve-out in the memorandum, but how would we know that? It was written so terribly that everybody was rightfully confused. It was very vaguely worded. Even people working within the administration did not know how to enforce it, and it's just a perfect example of the Trump-era chaos machine at play. But let's break this all down. All that I ask is that you drop a like, subscribe for more breaking news updates and deep analysis on politics. And before we break down this specific story and the implications, this story yesterday flew under the radar during all of the chaos. This reads, confusion around the new administration's spending freezes and executive orders caused disarray inside the Pentagon. The Army was in chaos over Trump's orders because, again, they didn't communicate them clearly. They didn't communicate anything. It was all just like a middle-of-the-night ploy that left people across multiple sectors, multiple institutions incredibly confused. That's the word, confused. The Army rushed to satisfy Donald Trump's executive orders this week, sparking so much confusion that top officials directed a halt on new contracts and then walked it back. It's actually pretty wild. Even the Pentagon had to walk back a directive about a day after issuing it in the same way that Donald Trump just rescinded his own assistance freeze memorandum. I mean, the confusion, the chaos is crazy. This says the latest muddled response to a series of chaotic actions by the White House. I feel like chaotic actions those words don't even represent what is happening. It's a fucking idiotic lack of leadership, a bunch of bumbling idiots trying to figure out how they can break the system and pass stuff at breakneck speeds. This is what they say. They want to break the system. And when they actually try to, they realize that maybe these processes exist for a reason. Maybe this funding exists for a reason, so Medicaid portals can be up so people can have access to their health care. Maybe there is a reason for part of this bureaucracy. Yes, the bureaucracy absolutely sucks. I mean, the BMV, for example. I remember recently having to get a new picture taken for my license, and the bureaucracy there made it take like 45 minutes. I was just sitting there waiting because there are so many processes that people have to go through before me. But I understand why that's the case. The same thing when I'm filing my taxes. Of course, filing taxes sucks. Most of this bureaucratic stuff sucks because you're trying to go through the government and there's nobody that really responds to you. It could be fixed, but you don't fix it by just completely breaking it. But let's continue. This reads, top officials misinterpreted Trump's order on diversity, equity, and inclusion and set an Army freeze on deals for new weapons. How do you misunderstand it that bad? Actually, I get how you misunderstand it because every single directive that the Trump admin sends out is so vaguely, terribly written. The Pentagon then clarified on Tuesday that it wasn't going to issue a pause. The move upended the defense industry and signaled a broader uncertainty around the president's sweeping actions. Again, what is this wording that Politico's using here? Sweeping actions? I mean, I guess you can say that they're sweeping actions. He's kind of just trying to break everything in front of our eyes. It also reinforced the challenges to Trump's quick decision approach to governance, such as recent orders to freeze certain federal funding and even foreign military aid that has sent agencies scrambling. Such tension is particularly acute at the Pentagon, where questions about the impact of Trump's executive orders threaten to slow down high-dollar programs and rock the defense industry. Quote, what kind of signal does this send to the defense industrial base, which is already plagued with a number of challenges, said Becca Wasser, a former Army official and current senior fellow at a Center for New American Security. Pentagon officials are bracing for more orders alongside an untested Pentagon chief eager to prove his worth, that being Pete Hegseth. All right, we covered the Pentagon story. Now, what happened today? What happened just an hour ago was the White House rescinded the Federal Assistance Freeze Memorandum. This comes after a federal judge blocked the memo from taking effect, as MTN News reports. The White House has officially rescinded the memo issued on Monday, and it's Wednesday. Literally 36 hours, they rescinded the memo. That would have put a complete pause on all federal loans and grants, not including direct assistance to Americans. Again, SNAP benefits would have been fine, but there was a lack of clarity. There was a lack of clarity in the memo, which led many people to be confused. The new memo issued today is a short, one-page memo and rescinds the previous memo completely. The Trump administration expected this memo to go into effect at 5 p.m. EST yesterday, but just minutes before, a federal judge blocked it. Again, nothing instills more confidence in my president than having him put out an executive order. Rescind the memorandum, put it back out, rescind it. It's just such a clown show, and people's lives are at stake. People's actual lives are at stake here. So while many expected the federal government to litigate the legality of the memo, meaning trying to fight back in courts, maybe even taking it up to the Supreme Court, the Trump admin instead just backtracked completely and rescinded the memo. We can read the memo right here, and it simply says, Executive Office of the President, Office of Management and Budget, Memorandum for heads of executive departments and agencies, and it's a one-liner. It says, OMB Memorandum M2513 is rescinded. If you have questions, please contact your agency's general counsel. But just in one or two lines, they rescinded the entire memorandum. I mean, just read this post from Sam Stein. It perfectly summarizes everything. First, Trump OMB puts out two-page memo freezing all grants. Then, chaos and panic ensues. Then the OMB puts out a 1.5-page Q&A trying to clarify, because there was a lot of confusion. Again, people were being locked out of certain portals. People thought certain benefits were going to be slashed. So they put out something trying to clarify, but that only causes more confusion. And then congressional Republicans defend it after Democrats go off, and the White House blames the media for all of the confusion. And then the OMB puts out a one-line memo rescinding the freeze. Is this the sign of a White House that is put together or organized to you, or is this a sign of a White House full of people who are fundamentally incapable of leading, but who are desperate to try to enact their agenda? I would say it's the latter. People who are fundamentally incapable of doing anything, nevertheless leading one of the largest, most bureaucratic governments in the world. And, you know, I'll leave it at that. We'll break this down more, but make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe for more breaking news content. Have a great rest of your day. I love you all, and peace out.